I am so thrilled to have you here today because we're going to be tackling something that literally touches absolutely every single part of our modern lives, even if it's mostly completely invisible to us. We're going to unpack the fascinating concept of the United States dollar and its absolute dominance over global finance. Now, it's incredibly easy to take the dollar for granted when we're just making our daily transactions, but when you zoom out to a global scale, man, it is so much more than that. Today, we're going to decode exactly how and why this single currency essentially runs the entire planet.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Have you ever actually paused to think about what connects all the totally different economies on Earth? Like what actually makes it possible for resources, goods, and massive amounts of wealth to flow across borders with such lightning speed? Well, the source material we're looking at today poses this brilliant metaphor. It asks us to look past the simple idea of just money and instead ask, what is Earth's financial operating system? Because to truly understand global finance, you really have to think about it the exact same way you think about the tech running your computer or your smartphone.
Think about it this way. On one side, we have our everyday national currencies, right? Things like euros in Europe or reais in Brazil. Our sources suggest thinking of these like the local apps on your phone. They're incredibly useful for the day-to-day tasks in their specific regions. You use them to buy groceries, pay rent, grab a coffee, the whole shebang. But underneath all of those individual localized apps, there absolutely has to be a foundational layer. The entire world fundamentally runs on the Windows or Mac OS of the financial world, which is the United States dollar. It's the underlying infrastructure that allows all those other apps to actually function and communicate on a global scale.
So, to see how this operating system stays on top, here is our roadmap for today. First, Earth's financial operating system. Second, the global gas station. Third, safe rooms and networks. Fourth, the golden power ratio. And finally, number 5, the exorbitant privilege.
Section 1, the global gas station. Forced global demand. So, I want you to step into the shoes of an international business for just a second. Imagine you're running a massive car manufacturer based in Germany, or maybe you're a large-scale farmer operating down in Brazil. Your business absolutely requires energy. You need to buy oil from Saudi Arabia just to keep your operations running. Now, you might be wondering, couldn't you just pay the Saudis in your local currency, euros or reals? Well, you usually can't. Oil is the lifeblood of the global economy, and it is priced almost exclusively in US dollars. To get the oil, you literally must have dollars first. And this brilliantly illustrates a pretty staggering reality of global economics. Because essential commodities like oil require dollars, every single country on the planet is effectively forced to maintain a massive savings account of US currency. And the crazy part? They don't necessarily hold these dollars because they want to, they hold them because they have to, literally just to keep their lights on and their engines running. This dynamic creates a permanent, unmatched, and mandatory global demand for the dollar that pretty much no other currency on Earth enjoys.
Section 2, safe rooms and networks. Looking at crisis and connectivity.
$10 billion. Now, when the world gets scary, during a war or a major crisis, global investors act a whole lot like people running for a storm cellar. Panic sets in, and the immediate, absolutely crucial goal is capital preservation. Now imagine you're a global entity, right? Like a sovereign wealth fund or a massive institution, and you have $10 billion that you need to hide instantly to protect it from a crashing market. You obviously can't just stuff that under a mattress, and you definitely can't just dump it into any random economy.
You need a safe room, but not just any safe room. According to our source material, even if the US economy is going through its own domestic problems, it's still widely viewed globally as the deepest, most liquid market in the world. If you need to park $10 billion instantly, you can buy US Treasury bonds. The key takeaway here is capacity. Literally no other country has a financial safe room big enough to hold that kind of panicked influx of cash without the door jamming, meaning without their own local market completely crashing from the sudden weight of the transaction. The US market just absorbs it.
But it's not just about fear and safe rooms. It's also about everyday connectivity. To really grasp the dollar's grip, ask yourself this: why do we all use the exact same social media platforms or messaging apps on our phones? Well, the answer is super simple, because everyone else is already on them. There's absolutely no point in being on a messaging app if none of your friends or business partners are actually there to receive your messages. Now, what's really interesting about this is how international finance perfectly mirrors consumer tech through the network effect. The dollar completely dominates because of two massive pillars: trust and convenience. First up, trust. Global players trust the US legal system to protect their property rights. Second, convenience. Because so many banks around the entire world already use dollars for their daily operations, the transaction fees to use it are simply lower. It is this massive self-fulfilling prophecy. The dollar is strong because everyone uses it, and everyone uses it because it's strong.
Section 3. The Golden Power Ratio. The source code of power.
So a currency's strength isn't just magic, right? It's essentially a cocktail of 3 distinct ingredients, and our sources lay these out really neutrally. First is military might. Backing a currency with the world's most powerful navy basically acts as a massive insurance policy, ensuring that global trade routes stay open and goods can actually flow. Second is economic size. The United States has a massive consumer market, and simply put, everyone around the globe wants to sell their products to that market. And finally, transparency. Unlike some other major currencies that might be strictly managed or hidden behind closed doors by their governments, the dollar operates in a highly predictable, observable way. These 3 ingredients combine to form that underlying source code of strength.
Section 4. The exorbitant privilege. The ultimate outcome.
So the crucial point here is exactly what economists call exorbitant privilege. They use this specific term to describe the incredibly unique, unmatched advantage the US enjoys simply by holding the world's reserve currency. Because the entire globe constantly needs dollars for both trade and safety, there's just an endless appetite for US debt. And because everyone wants to buy that debt, those treasury bonds we talked about earlier, the United States can essentially borrow money much, much more cheaply than any other nation on Earth.
To truly grasp how powerful this is, our source offers this incredibly vivid analogy. Having the world's reserve currency is like being the only person at a poker table who is allowed to write their own chips, and everyone else accepts them as gold. I mean, wow, you are literally defining the terms of the game for everyone playing. It is a completely unique, essentially unchallenged position in global trade that fuels the American economy from the ground up.
Which leaves us with one final, pretty profound thought to wrap up today's explainer. We've seen the sheer scale and deep entrenchment of Earth's financial operating system. But technology and the world always evolve, right? So what does this all mean for the future? Does the idea of a permanent reserve currency make sense forever? Or what might actually happen if another currency, or maybe a totally new financial technology, seriously tried to challenge the dollar's dominance? How would the global gas station and those safe rooms react? It is an absolutely fascinating question to ponder as we watch the future of global finance unfold. Thank you so much for joining me today, and keep questioning how the world really works.